Hello and welcome or welcome back to Frederick's Garage, your favorite location for the eradication of oxidation on your restoration of your transportation, and home of the Bel Airror, the 54 Chevy, that is the resto-mod with the rusto-bod. In this video, we continue with the modification and fitment of the front quarter panel, which involves cutting off a large portion of the original panel, and of course, continued modifications to make the new panel look as close to the original panel, minus the catastrophic rust, as possible. So stick around. So the next logical step is to figure out how much of the original quarter panel is good and what we can use. So to that end, I've taken the inner rocker back off. I'm going to weld up some of these screw holes that have shifted position. We'll put new ones in once we're firming up the lower edge of the quarter. The other thing I did, took this filler panel out. It was just clamped in there. I put a little notch right here. That way, when it's sticking out right here, I can tap it side to side to locate it a little more precisely. Without the notch there, I really didn't have any leverage to grab to move the thing once I had shoved it in from the back. So let's weld up those holes, get us a little bit closer. What we will check too is inside. Yeah, I still have the rear body mount mocked up. I have to take that out, but we'll check inside thoroughly and see what kind of shape we have. Looks like, other than the holes that are visible on the outside, looks like it's pretty good, pretty solid inside. May peel away a little bit of the undercoating, because after all, I will be welding near there, so don't need undercoating burning up in the back. But anyway, want to use as much of the original car as we can. This little piece here is just there to maintain the height. That is where the lower edge of the wheel well was. Trying to think of a more portable way to manage that. Maybe I'll make a little patch to put over that and hold it on with Clecos. That way I can put it on and take it off at will. And of course, here's the last remaining section of the inner wheel well that I'm going to have to rebuild as part of this structure here. I think in this case, though, I need to cut off the factory panel and mock up the replacement panel, getting the fender skirt fitted properly, and then make the inner wheel well match the new replacement fender, rather than trying to build the inner panel at this point. Anyway, that's my plan. We'll see how we make out. Stay tuned. So while the inner quarter, while the inside of the quarter panel here looks reasonably good, except for the spots where you can see holes, I checked the edge, and the edge here, I mean, it looks okay. It's a little wonky. Hammer and dollar, you'd straighten it out. But let's take a look at the thickness. So this car is mostly 19 gauge, maybe 19/20. So let's put 19 on there. If it's loose, 20's loose, 21's loose, and 22-ish. But there's a couple spots here where I can even get the 24 on it. So this lip is a little thin, and I don't have future problems. So I'm wondering if I don't use more of the lower section of the replacement quarter. However, if I do that, then I have to rethink, well, do I need to attach the inner rocker permanently in order to, while I still have this original panel in place to get the positioning right. So I have a little more head scratching to do before I figure out the plan of attack and how much metal to use. I guess in theory too, I could weld a new lip on the original panel, but then that's a lot of work on my back here, and then cleaning that up that it's a presentable angle, that could be a little bit tough, you know, etc. So let me do a little pondering here and see what I come up with. Well, it's about time I get back on this. I think I've been dragging my feet, cutting off the front of the original quarter panel. So, like I said, today we delay no more. What I'm going to do is cut somewhere along this line, try and leverage this factory hole here, and then cut on down through the lower edge. So the goal there too is to cut far enough that I'm around the edge of the inner wheel well, so I can potentially patch that as needed. And what I'll do is I'll reuse one of my Cleco tabs. I'll flatten this out. This I used previously on the back of the car. I'll flatten this out so I can remount the cutoff section should I choose to do so for continued measuring and fitting. I think ultimately I'm going to cut farther into the panel, but you know, right now I really just need this section and the lower corner gone so I can fine tune where the new panel may or may not fit. So anyway, wish me luck. So I've reshaped this patch piece, or Cleco piece, if you will, and left a little bit of curve in it because this panel does have a bit of a crown to it. The curve going this way is not so significant. And what I've done is I've labeled where the top is. I'm going to put 4 1/8 inch holes in here, which will allow me to position 4 Clecos, 2 on each side, which should allow me to relocate the panel, the cutoff section of the panel, in roughly the same location. Let's see how we make out. Okay, there we are, safe and sound. We'll take this off and we'll get ready to make our cut. Before I lay down and start doing the cutting, I'm going to sweep up the little metal curly cues that are laying there so I don't grind them into my back and shoulders when I'm laying under the car. Ask me how I've learned that lesson. I'm using the 1/32 inch cutoff disc because it leaves a little bit of smaller of a gap, just in the off chance I want to weld this back on. It's a little cleaner. If you're doing the cut and bud, of course, if you're using a thicker disc and you run it at an angle, that gives you a similarly narrow gap. Also, up here, I think I'll be cutting with enough space that the I won't be hitting the inner fender or what's left of it. So let's see how we make out. I'm also running it along the surface and cutting it slowly because the disc lasts a whole lot longer than if you're cutting into a raw edge. You can see the heat is eating the paint a little bit too. Not a major concern, but if you're trying to preserve patina or something, you know, you might want to think about that. Here we go. Well, I was wrong about the inner panel being clear, so I'm going to have to do something to free it from the inner panel. Maybe I'll drill out spot welds on the edge. Maybe I'll just slice along the inner panel just to have a cleaner break. Anyway, let me pause for a moment and take stock and see what happens. I'm gonna take care of that now before I get down here and I have a big floppy mess. What I've decided to do is rely on my Cleco. So I'm gonna keep cutting, reinforce it with the Cleco, and then go underneath and cut the inner panel off as a step 2. So I don't think I have to worry about a big floppy mess thanks to the Cleco. We're going to make sure we don't hurt the glass, so I'll find a blanket or something to throw over that. Give me a moment. That ought to suffice. There we go. Let's get the Cleco on there and we'll figure out that inner part. So here I am under the wheel well and under the car inside the fender well, and I'm gonna cut right along this line, basically on the topmost part of the vertical. And I think the metal behind that is relatively solid, but that should give me a nice clean edge to fit things up against. But the important thing is I need to cut that out of there so I can drop that piece of the quarter panel and access this section for assessment and patch forming, inner panel patch forming and outer panel fitment. So I think I'll use the thicker disc, the 1/16 inch disc, because that will cut through here a little more quickly, and I don't need to worry so much about possibly welding this back on, because frankly I don't think I could reach it if I wanted to. I have a few slightly smaller used discs that I save for tight quarters. This is one of the thinner 1/32. This is a 1/16. These three are 1/16. In any case, I'm gonna go with this one, assuming it'll fit nicely up in there in the wheel well. The smaller disc, of course, would allow me to follow the curve a little bit better, and using this tool make it even a little smaller for future tight work. So let's see how we make out with this. Well, here it's all nicely cut off. This inner panel is a little rougher than I would have hoped. I may have to go a little higher with my patch for that. But in any case, here's the amputated piece. So we'll just carry that over here and put it with the vast array of other items that have been cut off of the car. The idea too is to not throw anything out until you're done with the car, or at least that section of the car, in case you need it for reference. In fact, I still have the rear section of the wheel well that I cut off, which every now and then I'm still going back and looking at. So I think the next logical step is to reinstall the panels we have so far. That would be this middle section for the wheel well, which locates the edge of the fender there, the quarter panel, the rear half-quarter patch panel, the filler panel that goes inside the front portion of the quarter, and that should help us mock up and fit the front portion of the quarter. Maybe we'll leverage these trim holes to hold it on temporarily while we fit it up, see how the fender skirt fits, and potentially decide a little more acutely where we're going to make our cuts. So my idea here is to fit the outside and then build the inside once the outside is fitted up, and then weld up the inside and then weld up the outside. So that's my plan, and I'm sticking to it, at least for now. So what we've done next is we've taken the measurements from here and we've recorded where the splash apron should fit, because I'm using this this line or this position here to determine the width of the wheel well when I have it mocked up on the car. Well, it looks like if we're going to get farther along with fitting this front panel, we're going to have to clear some space up the top here. We're hitting the emblem. So we're going to have to pull the Bel Air emblem off, first time in, well, since 1954. Let's see what's involved. looks like we have some push pins and little spring nuts on there. So I guess we'll have to get the undercoat off and see how we can get to those things. We use the old putty knife and heat gun approach. Here goes. So here's what they look like now that I've cleaned the tar off of them. I'm not sure if they screw on or push on. I'll use a long nose pliers and just kind of twist and pull back on them, see how we make out. In order to fit up the front half of the quarter panel, I believe I'm going to have to cut off this lower portion of the original quarter panel so this will allow the new panel to move up appropriately. The way this is folded and has louvers on the bottom, I really can't fit the new panel properly over top of the old panel, despite having cut out the wheel well section. So in order to do that, and so I can put this back in place for mock-up if needed, I'm going to cut along here approximately, and I'm going to make a metal template before I make the cut and set it up with Clecos so I can reattach the cut off portion for fitment. You can attach and reattach it if I want to compare the old fitment to the new fitment. Maybe it's overkill, but once this is cut off, if I haven't established the position beforehand, I'm gonna lose those data points, in other words. So what I've done, this does have a slight concave aspect to it. I've taken my profile gauge and I'm going to form up the metal piece that I'll be using as a temporary location element. I've noticed that this spare gas bottle has approximately the same curvature to it, so maybe I can use that as a bit of an anvil. The other strategy, while this piece of PVC has a round shape, it's too sharp, but maybe I can use that as a bit of a pipe anvil to bend the piece and then hand form it from there. Just get the initial bend in it, then fine tune it with hammer and dolly over the gas tank. In any case, what I think I'll do is work with 20 gauge because that's a little more pliable, probably has sufficient strength, and I'll see if I can't work up a makeshift pipe anvil, try and get a bend in that lower portion. Do so while the piece is long to give me a bit of leverage. If I cut the short piece first, I'm not really going to be able to pry up that easily. So let's try that approach and see how we make out. I don't have much in the way of metal pipe, so PVC will have to do. Wish me luck. I guess it would help if the board was attached to the sawhorse, but be that as it may, let's see what we can do here. Get a little more leverage on here. There goes the profile gauge. Wow. Let's see how we're making out. Well, we've got a bit of a bend in there, probably too good of a bend or too much of a bend, but it might be easy to stretch it back out on the gas tank. Let's see. Yeah, actually we're not too far off. If I flatten that out a bit, I think we'll be in good shape. Yeah, I think that'll do. We're still a little steep there. There we go. pretty doggone close. All right, and I'm liking this end a little bit better, so I think I'll make my patch out of that end. So I've compared our bend to the gas tank, and of course the tank is a full cylinder, so it makes a full circle, but the arc of this is the same curvature as the tank. I think the real acid test though is right here, and it looks like we're fitting tight down here and fitting tight up here. I don't think this piece is going to go any higher than this, so you don't have to worry about the reverse curve. It turns out that I like this side of the patch isn't the right word. I like this side of the panel a little bit better. The bend's a little more precise according to the contour gauge. I did hold it up to the rocker panel, which I could hit on this side, and it seems to fit nice. So I'll be cutting it along here. I'm going to use the larger grinder to make this cut because it's a little easier to get a straight line with a bigger disc. Our piece, we'll dress that up on the bench grinder, just get the burrs off the edge, and we'll put it up on the side of the car with clecos. On second thought, I'll just hit it up with a flap disc to knock the edges off, and I'll do the same on this piece of stock. That way it's ready to go the next time I need to lay a patch out. It's always good to confirm which way the disc is spinning so you don't catch an edge and launch something or drive it into your hand. Ask me how I know. All right, let's fit this boy up. Well, there we are. Looks like it fits pretty good, pretty close. And let me see if I can show the other side. So the shape does change slightly through the course of this, so it did fit good or a little bit better on the rocker end. What I did have to do is bend it on the floor to take a little bit of this curve out of it to get it to fit nicely. But you can see it fits nice across the top and similarly nice across the bottom. So I think we're ready to drill and mount our clecos and get us one step closer to cutting off this lower quarter. One other thought, I think, let me get this guy off of here. I think I need to make a little piece for in here too, where I'm gonna cut that off. That's relatively flat though, so I mean, you know, obviously there's a curve there, but through here it's relatively flat where I'm gonna be cutting. So I think just a little flat tab going this way will do. And I have a couple little tabs like that from when I did the back of the car, so maybe I can reuse one of those. Let's see. I've pre-drilled the reinforcement plate with an 1/8 inch bit in anticipation of putting in the clecos, and I've deburred the backside using a larger bit, just running a larger bit on there to knock the edges off, so it'll fit nice and tight. Yeah, it feels better. There we go. Yeah, it's nice along the bottom. That gives me enough room to put these in. Problem is I made this hole low. Maybe what I'll do is re-drill that a little bit higher. But in any case, let's get the rest of these in. There we go. I think we're in business. Nice. So when I do the cut, I'll cut about there, sort of in the crest of the curve. And what we're gonna do now is try and reuse this old tab from the back of the car and build a similar reinforcement in this area, because I'm gonna cut down along here and then up into there. So I have this patch from the back of the car when I had to cut the whole tail pan off through the tail lights, and this allowed me to reposition the panel multiple times with Clecos till I lined up the trunk and the trunk floor, etc. So I'm gonna try and reuse this piece. Now what I've done is I've put a mock cut line here where I think I'm gonna be cutting through the rocker, and then I've held the patch up here, and you can see the two existing holes, which I'm gonna try and reuse. And then if I do 2 holes down there, I'll have 2 holes in the lower part of the rocker. If I have a cut line running up the middle, then I'll have the vertical cut across each of the holes. In other words, I'll have two Clecos on each side of where the cuts are. So let me try and mock that up a little further, and then I'll be drilling and installing the Clecos. So there's the front piece, an approximate cut line, and the rear piece. So when we do our cut, if we cut down between these two, cut from this oval hole down between these two, and then down to our cut line, and then go this way, I think we're in good shape. We'll be able to replace this lower section that we cut off numerous times in the event we need to revert back to the original dimensions just to fine-tune this piece. What I'm gonna do next towards figuring out this quarter is take a thin strip of this metal and make a gauge of the profile along here to see how close or how far off this panel is. As I mentioned before, I believe this angle needs to be a little bit tighter, and this angle needs to change to line up with the inner rocker. But let's see just how far off we are. If I do need to massage this, I may have to take this little kink out of here so I can fold this properly. Anyway, one step at a time, let's go. So I want a 1/4 inch strip of sheet metal to make this template out of. So we're gonna mark our 1/4 inch line, and I think I'll use a tin snips. Okay, there we go. On to the next. So here I have a template made. Let's compare it to the original. Let's switch hands here. Okay, so I made the template off the original here. You can see that fits tight, fits nice up along there. Okay, and then just to make sure this doesn't change dramatically, zoom out a little bit, and let's try it here. And it fits nice back here as well. So now, let's get up here and try it on the aftermarket panel. I've already massaged this a little bit. I've slit the back and already bent it a little tighter. So let's see. Okay, we're not too terribly far off there. Looks like, let's see. Oh boy, yeah, maybe we are a little bit far off. This oh, actually, yeah, that's not too bad. Let's yeah, if we hold it tight against, yeah, that's not too shabby. That's pretty close. Let's see how we are here. All right, so here's a problem. You can see the space there. So space right here. So we're gonna have to push this in a little bit, fold this edge like that a little bit. So Template's not going to work too well down there, but if I fold the whole thing evenly, then we should be pretty close. Yeah, let's see. Yep. All right. Pretty close. One more try. Yeah, so we gotta move that in and up a little bit. Okay, now we know what we need to do. Let's get on it. So I put it in the vise and bent it, and looks like we're pretty good down to about there. So let's put a mark about here, and let's double check. So we're pretty good. Well, we're real good right here, and we're pretty good right there, and we're a lot less good down there and continuing on. So let's maybe start from here and gently in this area and then more aggressively down there. Let me show you how I do this. So this isn't the most scientific approach, but I catch the edge of the flange in the teeth in the lower part of the vise, and I actually bend against the jaw of the vise on this side just by pushing down. Doing a lot of small bends and moving it around a lot. When I sneak up on it, not hit it over the head. So let's keep at it, see if we can get a little closer. So it's time for the much anticipated, or maybe I should say much dreaded, point of no return, cutting off the lower portion of the original quarter panel. I did form patches over here that I can reattach with Clecos, and I'm also going to cut with the thinner disc, the 3/32. That way, if I do want to reattach this for some reason, I have a smaller gap to weld up. So let's get on this. The point again is to get rid of this bottom section so I can pull the replacement quarter panel up tight and see how much of it I want to use, and get the best fit possible before cutting even further. So let's go. One other thought: if I do choose to reattach this, the weld seam is going to be underneath the rocker molding trim. So keeping it low like that will help minimize the rework if I do decide to put this back on. Unlikely, but just trying to cover all my options. The original piece wasn't in bad shape. It was nice and thick through here. The challenge was that the weldable edge was just a little too thin until I cleaned it up years ago when I took the inner rocker out and I didn't know what I was doing. I ground it a little thin, and I could potentially put this back on if I decide to go that route. But if this panel fits good, it's new metal going against new metal, and why not, right? All right, let's get on it. So one difference on these panels is the thickness of this lip, or the length of the depth of the lip, if you will. Looks like we're about 5/16 on the stock piece, and looks like we're closer to 3/4 inch on the new piece. So what I'm going to do is mark the line where I think this should be, because that's going to be how I line up the lower edge of the panel with the inner rocker, and as I check fitment. So let's get that marked up and proceed with fitting this up for the first time. The other thing we're going to do is mark the new panel for the louvers. So I'd say, let's see, line up these two front edges, and looks like factory louvers at about 5 inches. And let's get this measuring tape stretched out a little more. So it looks like we're about 5 inches and 15 inches. And there's one more closer to the back that's actually rusted off on this panel. So I'm going to have to measure that from the other side of the car. In any case, I'll mark the new panel at 5 and 15. I'll also get the width of these. We're not going to cut those yet, but we are trying to plan ahead. We're going to put this piece away, and that way I won't need it for a while. So I filmed the initial fitting up of this without any trim or screws or anything like that, just held it on with clamps and fitting up the blue fender skirt. And of course I lost that, or I didn't record it properly. In any case, let's revisit this. What I've done here, the quarter, the front portion of the quarter is held on at the bottom with vice grips. And I had located the trim holes, working from the inside of the car using the original trim holes with a Sharpie, drilled out the trim holes, drilled them a little smaller than the stock holes, just because they don't need to be that big. And then I've mounted the trim in place to kind of make sure that everything lines up. But in any case, what I wanted to demonstrate is how this blue fender skirt fits. This one has the new rubber, at least long sections of it. And let's put this up and see where we're at. Obviously, the attachment points aren't there in the front yet, and actually there's a couple other tabs that get welded to the inner fender that help push the skirt back out against these tabs, but that'll come later. I still have to do the inner fender to rebuild the inner wheel well. Okay, so let's put that up there. Give that a little bit of a tap. Okay, so I think we're in good shape there. And let me get my measuring tape. So what I'm showing here is this is the, should be the 29 5/8 inch measurement. And there we are, 29 5/8, front quarter to, or front half to rear half. And that's at about the point of this locating pin. So I think our spacing is pretty good. In fact, it's almost it's right in between 5/8 and 3/4. So I'm obviously not welded up yet, so it's not firm. I don't know that I want to tighten it up any further though. And then this is the gap that I established on the other side of the car with the fender skirt. And we can see that, that this gap is fairly consistent with this side. So it's a little looser in the front than across the top. But of course, I'm not pushed in all the way either. And this is with new rubber. The skirt on the other side of the car has the old rubber. So in case I'm happy with the fit. I think we're in pretty good shape there. One more thing to check. Let's take this down and put it away. And put this little piece of rubber back on for future fitments. Okay. The template that I created at the original, the origin of this mess. Let's see how that's looking. And darn if we're not looking pretty good. Obviously the template doesn't take into account the crown of the panel, but as far as its creation and fitting in here tightly in the corners and down at the bottom, I think this reaffirms that this spacing and mounting is pretty good. So at this point, we have the inner rocker secured with screws. We have the rear body mount attached with screws, bolted in and clamped in place up inside the car. It's not welded in yet because we are still trying to assert the final position of this. I think we're good. And also this quarter panel doesn't move like the factory one, or what's left of the factory one, because this edge is mostly intact, whereas the other one, it would, change shape like this as you'd push the bottom up. So without too much force, you can see the line that I drew indicating the lower edge of the original panel. We're mostly good there. Looks like we could afford to come up a little bit in the back, and also there's not a huge overlap for welding onto the inner rocker there either. So what I'll do is I'll take a jack and I'll push this up slightly, see how it works. Ultimately, that may determine where we do our final slice and what the shape of this is before it's welded. This panel will be coming off again. Obviously need to build the inner structure, but getting this panel located where I want it, making sure that it in fact is the right shape and all is key to make the whole thing work. One other minor point, you can see where I've indicated where the louvers are to be positioned. One's under that vice grip right there. And I think I need to change the angle of this slightly too. I don't know if you can tell from the video, but the lower edge of the edge of the fender's like that, whereas, I'm sorry, the quarter panel's a little bit like this, and the inner rocker's like that. So at least on the rear portion of this flange, I need to bend it like this a little bit more. I might be able to do that off of the car. I think that too, by doing that, that'll allow me to push this up a little more effectively. I guess this is just all part of the fine tuning with aftermarket panels, eh? So I've taken my precision bending tool and I've folded the lip this way a little bit. Obviously I had it far away from the inner rocker, just let it loose and let it flop around, that I was able to bend the flange. And by doing that, I have it up pretty much where it needs to be without even using a jack, just by leaning on it by hand. So I think that's pretty good. Obviously this flange is a little longer or deeper than the factory one. In any case, might want to get that up a little higher, so maybe I will try the jack. But another important point is this edge. I previously sliced this because this is the shape of the edge that I want. I had made a template based on the other side that's not as rusty, and I want this profile from the rear. So how I tie it into this portion here is to be determined, and of course till I get that set at the proper height will determine how much of this I cut and roll that in, you know, etc. So I think it's time to look at the other side of the car a little more precisely and see how I want to form this, see if I want to push that up a little harder. One other point of comparison, if we grab the light and look in here, we can see that the replacement panel flows perfectly parallel to the original panel, which is good news. And you can see those little tangs on the inner rocker. They kind of set the depth, or at least the maximum depth, that the outer rocker, or sorry, outer panel should come up to meet the inner rocker. So we're not bottomed out on that, at least on the back here. So that does suggest that I might want to come up a little more with it, but we'll take a little closer look at the other side. We'll go back to some of the exhaustive measurements that I took earlier and see what we think we want to do with this. You can see the screws sticking out from where I temporarily attached the rear body mount. Not quite sure the order of welding things up either, whether I'll weld the quarter first and then the inner rocker or vice versa. Obviously I need to weld up, you know, create and weld up the inner structure here before I attach anything else. All right, let's get on with it. So let's take a look at the driver's side, the less rusty side. Still kind of crappy, but far more of it exists than the passenger side. So you can see the general shape here, almost a check mark there. So I made this template a while ago. So this this lower edge is what we're after. Sorry. And if I fold this down, this template actually covers the lower portion of the rocker and even the flange, the folded up flange there. So I'll compare this to the other side and see if we're close. Obviously the aftermarket panel won't be exact, but if I have the option to position it a little closer to the original side, I'll do that. So this shows a little more precisely how my template fits. And then if we take a look here, we can see that the inner rocker, it sort of has a low pocket here. And then of course it's sort of straight across. So what I'll do is I'll take my profile gauge and get a feel for what the shape of this quarter panel is, what angle this lower edge is at, to help establish how high or low to make this little pocket. In any case, again, trying to make the other side resemble this side. Eventually I'll be replacing this side also, but anyway, that's the goal. Let's see what we can do. Over here on the driver's side, the edge seems to taper out like that a little bit, and I can't be certain that's accurate, because if I remember correctly, this was kind of crushed in, probably from a flying tire chain. They come off at speed, they'll do some damage. The other side had part of the rear wheel well folded up where a tire chain had clobbered it. In any case, let me see what I can do to ascertain that that's the proper angle. So if we look over here, here's the passenger side that I cut off, and that does seem to have that same outward fold, if you will. In other words, you can see this is that dog leg, and that edge tends to go out like that. Obviously, much of it's missing. One other benchmark, if we come over to the replacement panel for the driver's side, you can see that it too tends to flare out a little bit. So, yeah, tough to tell on the video, but that's the case. Also, you can see why I chose to dress this up, because that is a little nebulous right there. Anyway, let me put a little bit of a bend in there and see if we can't shore up that corner angle a little better. And at the same time, I'll see if I can't fit the trim a little better too, simply by getting rid of that tar gob. Let's get on it. So we've got our tar off of here, and this piece fits okay, you know, till I have the proper clips and everything, and the locating screw in here. I think we'll be okay with this piece. The shape of the quarter panel's not that far off, and again, this piece has a little bit of road damage there. I did straighten that out a bit, but it might be a little torqued. I'll try my straighter spare piece on there. I did angle this out a little bit, but key difference is from this edge to the end of the inner rocker, we're about 5/8 inch on this side, and the other side we're clearly 1 inch. So I've bent it out a little further, so we're a little closer to 3/4 on this side. I'm going to be putting this same type of replacement panel on the other side eventually, so that difference in the dimension isn't really that critical. Anyway, I'll take a few more measurements. I have been hammer forming the inner edge of that a little bit, trying to put that depression in the lower portion here. I may have to hammer that off of the car. And I am going to put the jack under it though, because by changing that shape down there, the lip did come down a bit. So I'm going to put the jack under there and clamp it up and see. I think the next logical step too would be to cut off the overlap here, and I'll just cut it flush at this point. Obviously, if I'm going to MIG weld that as a butt weld, then I'll need a little bit bigger of a gap. But for now, you know, with the overall fitment going on, I think I'll just notch that it fits snug. I doubt I'm going to TIG it, but just in case I decide to TIG weld it, having those at the same point, you know, hard against each other would be most ideal. So let's keep at it a little longer. It's getting near dinner time. Bye. So I've got it jacked roughly into place. The lower edge is about lined up where I want to weld it. I'm not quite ready to weld it yet, but just one perspective. Here's the look from the back. That lower edge of the quarter is pretty much parallel to the road. So let's see how we look on the driver's side. And same sort of thing, that lower edge is pretty much parallel to the road. So I think that's a win. And one other thought, the replacement quarter differs from stock slightly because this edge is a little fat right there. So I've darkened out the section that I might grind away, which should make this fender well lip or wheel well lip look pretty darn close to stock. Obviously, I still need to planish out the flange that I did for the fender skirt, but we have bigger fish to fry at the moment. So what I've done was push this back in a little bit just because it didn't look quite right. And I put a jack under this side, and I put a level on the back of the car on the rear frame, which I've already determined was level to the rest of the body. And I put a jack on the other side just to make everything level. And I measured from this point to the ground and from this point to the ground on both sides, and we're consistent now. So I've put 2 screws in here to hold it fast. I did bend the flange back a little bit so the edge of the quarter fits a little more parallel to the inner rocker, and you can see the one little nub farther forward, we're close to that. We're pushed up almost that high, and the nub in the back here, we're not as high, but I think they're just guidelines, not mandatory mounting points. So I think we're okay. Let me check a couple more things. I will put a little tack right here. Obviously, I'm not gonna weld this up on the car. I'll weld it up off the car, but for now, I'll just put a little tack in there. That'll keep the bottom of this a little less flexible. So let's keep going. So as you can see, I've put a little tack right there. I don't have it screwed in to the inner rocker at the moment, but here's my less bent gravel guard. And you can see that that fits pretty well. So at this point, I'm gonna call it as far as fitting up the front of the quarter panel. And next I need to focus on rebuilding the inner wheelhouse so I have something to mount this to. So this is going to be coming on and off as I prepare, patch, and weld up the inner wheel well. I think that's going to be the subject of another video though. So there you go. So we have all the trim bolted on except for this molding. The long molding that's just kind of held up with a magnet, but we can see that everything lines up good, fits nicely. Even though this had a dent in it, it still fits pretty good. Obviously this isn't bolted on, but you know, what can I say? Looks like the aftermarket panel's a pretty good fit. So let's keep sizing it up and see if we can't get it to the next step. Maybe decide where our cut lines are going to be. Of course, I need to start working on the inner structure now and figuring out how to rebuild the inner fender well.